The past haunts us all, whether it be a person, place, or thing. We are reluctant to let go. We call to the dead out of desperation and intrigue, searching for answers about what lies behind the shadows. We are paranormal researchers. We are Necromancers. Hello, and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. My name is Justin Brown, and this is episode 56 with Tammy Gyamathy. This is going to be a very interesting show. I've known Tammy on Facebook for a while, but do I really know her? Absolutely not. So that's why we're going to have her on the show. This is what we do. We go through all the peeps I am connected with on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, everywhere. And we get to know them one by one, and she's number 56. So, but before we do that, we're going to head on over to the chat moderators and, welcome them to the show and see what's up with them. So, Jessica, Missy, what's up? Not a lot? Same old stuff? How exciting. Jessica. All right. Do you got a hot pocket cooking? I heard someone's microwave. Oh, that's not fair at all. Okay. If you guys are first time viewers or don't know the drill, um, we are going to get to your comments. We're going to get to your questions periodically through the show. That's because I had you muted. I didn't check it. So we'll do that over again. I had you muted. You guys are going to have to help me remind me to unmute you guys.
He said your audio is also really choppy.
It's technical difficulties. I can't do nothing
Yeah, Sam
about
said
it.
the same thing.
Yeah, I didn't check the audio before I went live, and that's what I get for not doing that. So, how bad is it?
How bad is it? He said it sounds like you're stuttering.
Let's see if I can hear it on this end. Yeah, Sam said the same thing. Yeah, I didn't check the audio before. Yeah, that sounds kind of crappy. All right, we'll just have to roll with it. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to Tammy's bio, and I'm going to read this bio, and we're going to get to know Tammy really, really well. Let's go. Let's see if I can find her bio. Okay, there it is. Tammy Gyamathy is from Mountain House, California. I've never heard of that, so I'm kind of curious about what Mountain House, California is all about. After realizing she was sensitive to the paranormal at her childhood home at the age of 12, Tammy set out on a quest to understand what she was experiencing by becoming an investigator. After 17 years of field research, she focuses on helping families dealing with the paranormal so that they do not have to fear the paranormal as she once did. Tammy has also made an appearance on the TV show Ghost Adventures, and I believe it was the Hotel Ledger one, which was really interesting. Yes. And we'll definitely talk about that during the show. So, without further ado, Tammy, what's going on?
Hey, how are you?
I'm tired. I did not check all the technical things I need to do for the show, but hopefully the viewers will not kill me for not doing that. Sometimes I have audio issues and I don't know why. But here we are, episode 56. I always ask my guests, why is it that they investigate the paranormal, how to get started? You tell us why in your bio. But what does your bio that I just read not tell us? Is there a way you can elaborate on how you became sensitive, what your childhood home was like, all that stuff?
Yeah, so basically, it really started when I was 5. We were at a place called Meek Estate Mansion in Hayward, California, where I grew up. And they used to do like flea markets and stuff on the grounds there. And it's like an old historic house. So I was looking up at the window and I saw a little girl looking down at me. She had black hair and braids and like a white lace dress upturned. And I was like, what's that? So then I pulled on my mom's arm and I'm like, look at that. And we look up and she was gone. So that was the first time like I saw something. And then I think it was around 12, we went to go look at a house to move into. And as soon as I stepped foot in that house, I felt something and I was like, I don't want to live here. I told them straight up, there's something in this house. I don't want to be here. Of course, they didn't listen to me. So we moved in anyways. And it was probably about a week into living there. We were eating dinner in the dining room, and my bedroom was kind of like kitty cornered to where the dining room is. And the my stereo in my room went on by itself, and it was one of those like 6 disc CD
Mm,
players. So it was like changing CDs, and it was getting louder. And I get up, I go to turn it off, go back to the dining room, and then the TV in the living room goes on by itself. So at this point, I think they're kind of starting to believe what I was saying.
yeah.
And it just got worse after that. That house was insane. Um, I think until I was about 16, I was kind of fearful. I never wanted to sleep in my bedroom. I would sleep in the living room or with my sister. Um, but once I hit about 16, I was like, okay, I can't be scared anymore. Like, I need to figure out what this is. I need to know what's going on. So I started doing research, kind of looking into what spirits are, why they're there. I would leave like a recorder going when I went to school, not even knowing what the heck I was listening back for when I got home, um, taking photos, stuff like that. But I think it was about 20 years old is when I started kind of going out and investigating with different teams and like meetups and stuff like that. Um, and then I broke off on my own, started my own team in 2000, I want to say 2012. That's when I started Lost Souls. But I've always focused on residential cases. It's very important to me to help families that are in fear of what's going on in their homes. Help the spirits, of course, as well. And I do a lot of historical stuff too for like research bases and just to go out and investigate.
So I know Matt Benton, he's originally from California. He says there's not a lot of places like there is in the Midwest area and the East Coast as far as historical places and places that you can go. Is that true in your area?
Yeah, there really isn't a whole lot. We get like I focus on like the gold mining towns, the old hotels and speakeasies and stuff like that. Like that's my focus. When I'm doing historical locations, I go out to Virginia City quite a bit, do the Washoe Club and places like that. And there's some historical homes around here, but it's not like it is everywhere else. We really don't have a whole lot of places to do, unfortunately.
So you got ghost towns and mining towns. What's your favorite?
Mhm.
I've heard Virginia City is probably like the best place to go out there.
It's good. I mean, I've had amazing experiences at Washoe. I've had amazing experiences at the St. Mary's Hospital out there as well. But I wouldn't say that that's like my go-to. Hotel Leger is probably my number one, only because I've been investigating that place now for over 5 years. Really have developed a relationship with the spirits there. They know me. I mean, other teams have gone in there and got EVPs of the spirits asking for me and my other team members. So that place, legit, every time we go, we get something. It's never a disappointment. So I would say probably Leger, and then my friend has a costume shop in Modesto called Daydreams and Nightmares, and I'd say those two are probably the most active places I've ever been.
Okay, so that Jose or hotel the correct pronunciation is not leisure is it's what
Leger.
Leger.
Hmm.
Okay, I have to remember that too. When I'm very tired, I I have brain farts like every microsecond. So I knew that, but I just couldn't. my brain doesn't work when I try to remember. So that leads us into your appearance on Ghost Adventures, because that was that this season or last season?
This season,
That's
this
what I
past season.
thought.
Mhm.
So explain to us. I don't know if you have an NDA that you can't disclose how much, but what's the process of being asked to come on the show at a location that you've been investigating? What is that like? How does that work?
So they had originally called me almost I think 2 years ago now, to do my house. And I really don't to this day know how they found out about my house. Um, but I turned it down the first time, and then they called me back again last year, again for my house, and then I rent. So I asked my landlord, he said no. So I was like, well, I have another location. I could send you some information on it. So I worked very closely with the producer on the show, for months. I mean, giving them loads and loads of history and any information I can, any past investigation footage. So I think I was probably in contact with them for a good 7 months before the location was actually picked up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they picked it up, and then it moved really fast from there. It was like, okay, we need it, and it's next Tuesday. And that was like a Friday, and I'm like, holy crap. So it was a very good experience for me. I learned a lot. And as far as like working with them, it was a lot of hurry up and wait, doing interviews and waiting your turn and stuff like that. But it was a great experience. The guys work really hard. We hear a lot of stuff about them from other people, but actually getting to meet them and seeing them in person, it changed my views of them a lot, because I think they're all great guys. And they all work really hard too. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, I think you can visually see the evidence of all the hard work and stress they go through. That episode in particular, Zach looked rough to me. He looked rough. Like, he looked like he lost weight. He looked very tired, strung out, stressed out. Over the years, you see them go through changes. But what I'm interested in is, what did you learn? You spoke about, you learned some stuff. What did you learn primarily?
I learned because I personally I want to get into film, and TV. That's kind of where I want to be in my career. So working closely with the producer, I learned a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, which was good for me for what I want to be doing with my life. And then just seeing how like Zach, like he does it all. He's directing. Okay, you guys need to be here. You need to do this, and just seeing it from the behind the scenes view and not just watching the show. It's not like a lot of people are like, well, it's fake and it's this, and it's not. Like, it was one take. He did my interview. That was it. It wasn't like we did it 3 different times. You know what I mean? Like, we came in and we just did it.
Hmm.
And there have been times where I know that things on the show have been kind of exaggerated about the location. And I was very like forward from the start. This is the location that's dear to me. I
Right.
don't want anything done that's not true. So everything that I sent them, they followed it to a T. Some mad respect for that, of course. Um, yeah, and what they got, I mean, it goes true to what happens at that location. And it was crazy because actually the night that they interviewed us, they left and I had the hotel with a friend to myself, and we were in one of the hallways, and I had the ghost box out and I was like, do you know who's here for you? And they're like, Zach. I mean, the clearest answer I could get. And we're like, where is he from? And it said Washoe, which I thought was interesting because that's where they started their journey, was at the Washoe Club. So yeah, people who think that the show's fake and this and that, like I don't. From what I experienced and what they got, it all falls in line.
Well, fake's a harsh word. I think, me being a filmmaker independently myself, there's you have to do things in order to create entertainment value
Right.
for. And
Exactly.
when you have a target like Ghost Adventures has on their backs and on their foreheads, it's easy to, be a keyboard warrior, when it comes to that. But,
Exactly.
as far as them faking anything, I mean, Ghost Hunters is the ones that got caught faking stuff, not Ghost Adventures. So
Right. I mean, I tell people that all the time. It's like they have to add the dramatics. They have to get ratings. It's entertainment. Like we can't nitpick at it too bad. But
it is what it is. People need to understand that if they want a ghost show that shows the reality of it, they're going to fall asleep.
nobody's gonna watch
No
it.
one will watch it. So they just need to understand that. So um, let's go to the girls. Any questions or comments? Let's do some shout outs and see if anybody has some questions for Tammy.
I have Bill watching. I've got Derek watching. I've got RJ watching. I've got Josh watching. Christy is watching. And the only thing that they're talking about is Josh's back.
Josh is what?
His back.
Okay. Interesting.
There's no questions on YouTube. Bill Davis was watching on the side as well. Paul is on, and Sam. That's the only one that's commenting so far.
Okay. So, guys, again, if you have a question for Tammy, she would love to answer your questions. If you want to be shouted out and you haven't commented it yet, just go ahead and give us a comment and we'll shout you out. But we'll get back to you, girls, and we'll continue on.
Sure.
I got several questions asked Tammy. Okay, so Tammy, you do residential investigations primarily. What is your protocol for receiving those calls, and how do you deal with them initially?
So when I get a call, I kind of briefly go over what they're going through in their house. And then I set up an appointment to meet with them. I have paperwork for them to fill out, different questions and stuff like that. Just to, you have to ask about alcohol abuse and drug abuse and mental health issues. And, you got to get those basics out of the way and, fill out exactly what's happening, etc. So I have them do that. We do kind of like a walkthrough to get a feel of what's going on in the house. We'll do a few EVPs. And then we go from there. If we feel like there is something going on, I would say 99% of the time we go back and do a full investigation regardless, because they're not always going to give us something the first time we show up, unless there's some type of red flag from the people themselves. And then we just perform our investigations. Sometimes it's a few, sometimes it takes a lot longer than that, depending on the situation. Gather all of our evidence and kind of go from there. It's a kind of a case-by-case thing.
So you spoke about wanting to do this type of work on television. Is that correct?
Well, not necessarily the paranormal. Film is what I want to do with my career, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the scenes. There had been times where I was contacted by production companies and stuff like that, but that's not really what's important to me. If something came my way, I would take it. I'm not gonna lie, but that's not like my main focus of the paranormal.
Okay, so you have a paranormal team. Let's talk about the people you investigate with and what roles they play.
So Matt Medina is the co-founder of the team. I've been investigating with him now, gosh, I would say over 10 years.
Wow.
And then Andrew Morrow is an investigator of the team as well. We've been friends for quite some time. He joined the team back in 2012 when we started Lost Souls. And that's basically it. I like to keep my team small. I think there's less drama that way, and you get more done when there's less people.
Amen. Amen to that. When you do the less people on the team, which I think is a good idea, do you find it that you're limited on how much you are able to put up for places that charge? Is that ever an issue?
As far as when we go to like places that charge, we have a good group of friends that investigate that we do those type of places with.
Okay.
And of course, when we have maybe a residential case that we might need extra hands in, I have people to go to for that.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to start doing. Because before I felt like I needed like a 7 or 8 person team so I could afford everything I needed. And, I wanted to have like this super team. But then after going through what I just went through this last year and a half, I was like, that didn't work out the greatest.
Yeah, it usually doesn't. I mean, we've brought people in, and I think energies and personalities are really big in what we're doing. And if the energies are off, then what you get isn't going to be as good. Um, that's why I kind of keep it with my core group of people, because our energies just work really well together.
That's very interesting. We've been dealing with that, and I agree with you. I think that's very, very important. The dynamic you have with the team is very, very important. So you can do good work, so you're not constantly having this weird tension around all the time, interfering with what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So, have you ever had a residential case, that you felt was something over your head, like you felt like you had to bring in outside help because you just could not figure out what to do?
Um, my first dark case, actually. We were called in by this lady who was saying that she had a demon in her house. She had claimed that this entity was raping her, and it was pretty crazy. It was like my first case like this as well, but um, I took it anyways, and we did our initial interview. It was me and a woman that was on the team back then. She's no longer part of the team. We went and did like the initial interview with the clients, and it was weird because she had lived there for 20 years. But the activity just started a year prior to her contacting us. She did let me know from the beginning that her son that lived with her was bipolar, which
Okay.
was okay. It's not like a huge thing. But mental illness does play into activity as well. Um, it can cause it to be worse. And bring things in. So I wasn't too worried about that though. So we did the interview. She went upstairs with the other woman on the team with her brother, because her brother lived there as well. So it was the three of them that lived in the house. And it was a weird situation because the brother had just moved in not too long before she had contacted me. And he had her bedroom. The woman of the house and the son took the couches in the living room downstairs, which I thought was kind of weird. But so I'm interviewing him by myself, and he's like, "My name is so and so, but I want you to call me this instead." And I'm like, "Okay, weird, but whatever." Thinking to myself, of course. And so he's like, "I play the Ouija board, and I invite the spirits in to learn from them." And I was like, "Okay, why do you do that?" And blah blah blah. And you were talking about it, and then he was like, um, he goes, "And I was in the military, and I left the country, and I went to Germany and Prague, and I investigated the catacombs in Prague." And I'm thinking, this is kind of weird because literally 6 months before this, that I took that exact vacation. I investigated the catacombs in Prague. So
Whoa.
I'm like,
We're going to talk
how did,
about that next.
yeah, how the hell? Like, that's just too weird.
Hmm.
So I'm just getting really bad vibes from this dude. And I'm like sitting there rubbing my rosary, and I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't feel safe. Like, this just isn't right. And so I call everyone from down upstairs to come back down. Basically said, okay, well, we got all we need. I'm going to wrap this up. We'll be in touch. So I contacted the mother, and I told her, I want to take this case on, but I need to talk to you outside of the house, just you and I. And because I felt like it was something with the son. And so we met at Starbucks, and I was talking to her, and I told her what he had said about Germany and Prague, and she goes, "He's never been out of the country. He's never been in the military." And I'm like, okay, this is just a little weird. Um,
Hmm.
and we went into more things because of the claims of being raped and stuff like that. I told her, the next time that you feel that you've been raped by something, I would like for you to get a rape kit done, because we have to rule everything out. I mean, we can't just assume that everything's paranormal. And I told her I even offered to go with her if you feel more comfortable doing that. And any like suggestion that I had outside of the box of paranormal, she really didn't like or want to do. So that should have been kind of a red flag for me. But I took the case anyways. The first time we went, to actually investigate. Drew and I were in the boys. Well, he's not a boy; he was in his 40s, but we were in her son's room, and he had all these like satanic drawings on the wall. And I'm like, okay, another red flag. And he had this Chuck Taylor like sitting on top of a speaker, and it flew off and hit Drew in the back. I'm like, okay, we're getting some good stuff at least. We go into the bedroom where the brother slept, and I was kind of leaning on the bed, but I wasn't like on the bed itself, and the bed starts shaking. So there was definitely activity. We were getting stuff. And we go back a couple more times, got some EVPs, whatnot. But things just started kind of getting weird in communication with the woman, the son. I mean, they would have to leave the house, of course, because that's how I do my investigations. I don't want them in the home while I'm investigating. He like skipped out one night before he got to leave with them. So what I think that he did was he went and hid. And he came back in the house after they had left. And they had 3 pretty aggressive pit bulls. And we were upstairs. And he let the dogs in. And we hear them like running up the stairs, like towards us. So we closed the bedroom door really fast. And then Drew went out and he's like, dude, what's going on? Like, you're not supposed to be here. He's like, his whole personality changes. He's saying he's somebody else and it's his house. We don't have permission to be there. And it just kept getting weirder and weirder. And we're like, okay, well, maybe we need to just like pass this on to someone else because it's kind of out of our area of knowledge at this point. We went back one last time and it was just me and the woman that was on my team at the time. And I go up to the bedroom, which was his, and he had these like packets of socks like stacked up with a hat and then a Polaroid photo on top of it. And I was like, that's interesting. What is that? Who is that? Maybe that's him and his sister when they were young or something. So I go over to it, and it's a picture of me and my sister. I was 5 years old in the photo, and my sister was 10.
Okay, hold on. Wait. You can't just blow over that, right? How did the picture get there?
Well, let me get to that.
Okay.
So, and it's a Polaroid, mind you. So it's not like it's something he could have printed off the computer or anything like that. I felt like I got kicked in the gut because I'm like, what the hell?
Right.
How did this get here? Because I'm like, no, this isn't real. And laying next to that was a negative of me and my best friend when we were 16 years old that my dad took a photo. So I'm like, no,
Uh-oh.
like I'm pretty pissed off, honestly, at this point, because I'm like, what's going on? I call them. I'm like, you need to come home right now. Like, this is not okay. I asked him, like, where did you get these photos? And he goes, I found them on the floor. And I'm like, you found them on the floor? There's no way possible you found these on the floor in your house. And he just got like super defensive. He's like, what are you going to do? Call the cops? And I'm just like, well, no, but I need to know where you got these photos from. It's a Polaroid and a negative. Like, that's not something you can reproduce.
Mm-mm.
So I was wigging out like a lot. And the crazy thing about it was, I would say 3 weeks prior to me taking the case, my mom had sold her house because it was right after my father had passed away. And we boxed those. I found that photo and I boxed it up and it went to her storage. So there was like no way this guy could have got this. Like no way possible. I contacted a friend of mine that was a medium and I was like, this is what's going on. I don't know what to do. And he's just like, you need to abandon the case. You need to put somebody else on it because obviously it's personal at this point. And that was really it. I never got an answer of where that came from. And it was just, I don't know, it was scary to say the least. For something like that to pop up out of nowhere, that's just like impossible to me. So,
Yeah, so after you leave the case, this guy didn't stalk you or anything.
no, nothing. Nothing.
Well, pardon my French, but that's fucking crazy.
Right? I mean, I don't
That's
have
the
an answer
craziest
for it.
thing I've ever heard. Actually, I have a feeling that I've heard something like that before. I almost had like a little deja vu moment there, but I cannot remember where I've heard that before.
I've told this story before.
I'm trying to think if it was you or not. I don't know. I don't know.
I have a photo of it, so I can send it to you after
What other
the
teams
call.
have you affiliated with besides your own? Obviously.
Honestly, nothing since way before I started mine. Because we were with another team when I first started, and we broke off from that pretty quickly. And Matt and I just kind of did our own thing for a while, and then we started up Lost Souls.
Okay. Because I didn't know if it was something that I've heard about because I've seen some stuff that Christopher Rocky Gates has done. I didn't know if you have been on his show talking to him about it or
No, but we've been friends, but I
okay.
don't on his show now.
All right. Well, I just had a weird deja vu moment because I'm thinking somebody else's. If it wasn't you, somebody else had a similar experience. But that's strange. Yeah, that would keep me up at night.
Yeah, and it did actually, and it's funny because when I took that case on, things in my home started getting really crazy. Um,
Hmm.
I was living here by myself for like 3 months, and it was all around the same time. And I would like get woken up in the middle of the night with banging on my walls. Something was banging. I was getting ready to go out with a friend, and something was banging on my front door, like a police officer would bang on a door. And I'm like, what the hell? So my cat runs to the front door, and he's like on the ground as low as he could get, ears straight back, and he's just growling. And I'm like, what the hell? I
Hmm.
look out the little peep, there's nothing there. Open the door, nothing there. So, I mean, my house got pretty crazy while I took that case on. I had really bad anxiety. I was having bad personal issues with relationships. Um, yeah, that case was, I was definitely not ready for that kind of case at that point in my.
So did this subside? Did you do anything to rid yourself of this energy?
I did my own protection belief type things.
Hmm.
I went to church. I was just like, I don't know what to do really at that point. But I took a little break from those cases at
Hmm.
that time. And I just started really educating myself better for situations like that because we weren't really ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I
At that.
agree. I agree with that. Let's go over to the comments. I'm sure that there's something going on. I seen Paul Welch join us and a few others.
Hi, Paul.
On the YouTube side, Glenda has joined us, and Paul did have a question. Do you ever investigate alone?
My house. But besides that, no.
And that's it. That's on YouTube right now.
All right.
David Milby has joined us. Philip has joined. Holly, Tony Felosi. I do have a couple questions. Christy wanted to know what's the most active place you've been to?
Please say
No.
the catacombs.
That was actually pretty good, but I wouldn't say it was most active. Gosh. It's a toss up between Leger and Daydreams and Nightmares.
It's because you've been to Leger so many times. You have more chances of getting stuff to happen, right?
And I would throw in St. Mary's in Virginia City. That place is pretty phenomenal.
All right.
David Milby wanted to know, do you think you might have been a doppelganger?
That if I was,
If the guy
The
you were
male
telling
that
this,
had your photo
yeah.
and said that he went to the catacombs.
no, I think that there was something more sinister going on there. For him to know the information that he did, and for those objects to show up in that house, I think something a little darker was going on. I wouldn't say a doppelganger though.
Christy wanted to know who all was left in the house. Just the lady and her crazy son.
The lady, the son, and the brother stayed in the home. I have reached out to her since to just check and see how things are going. I felt bad, not being able to help her. but I was put in a situation where I had to get out of it. Supposedly things haven't changed much. I had given advice and she didn't want to take it, so not much I can do.
Right. Derek says, how has being on Ghost Adventures affected you as an investigator? Has it opened more doors to opportunities, or has it gotten her team noticed more?
I've had a lot of opportunities come my way since. Um, Other than that, like I don't use that as anything. You know, it was an experience for me. I don't play on it. I don't put it out there too much. So I wouldn't say too much has changed.
Okay. And Philip wants to know, he said, was your personal situation affecting her paranormal situation or vice versa?
I think the case that I took was affecting my personal life.
Absolutely.
And that's all I have for right now.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Keep the questions and comments coming. This next question I have is my number one bucket list location is the catacombs. Was that your number one?
I wouldn't say it was my number one. But I'm very happy that I did it. I mean, it was cool. It was definitely an interesting experience. Prague in itself is just, I mean, you step foot on the ground there and you just feel it. The history is so rich. The spiritual activity there is beyond amazing. We took I didn't get to take too much equipment, you know,
Mm-hmm.
on it, but I did take a K2 down there and recorder and stuff. I got some really cool EVPs. K2 hits where there's no electricity, nothing. It was cool. I think like the personal experience of it was the best aspect of the whole thing. Just feeling the energy itself it was phenomenal.
So, can you elaborate on what your sensitivities are and what you felt like you picked up? Elaborate on what you picked up in Prague.
I can feel energy around me. Like I don't like I've seen a few times in my life, but that's not something that happens a lot. So I feel energy. I'm empathic as well, so just anyone's feelings or vibes, I pick up all of that too. But it's just like a heaviness that I feel. And it's weird because when I know when something is going to pop off, I get a weird like cramping sensation in my lower abdomen. I don't know why, but that always happens for
Hmm.
me. But yeah, it's just you can just feel the energies around you. That's like the best way that I can describe it.
So, did the energy in the catacombs, did it feel dark? Did it what would you label it as?
Parts of it felt dark, parts of it felt really heavy. Some parts like my heart would start racing more or just kind of like pressure on my chest. And other parts were really peaceful. It just really depended on where I was at.
Awesome. Yeah, I've always wanted to go there. I would think if there was any location that would be a recipe for a haunting when it come to the resting place or the remains of people being in that location for that many a time with that much density, that would be
Mhm.
a location to consider. Is that what you were kind of thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it was an opportunity that came up while we were there, and I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I have to do something paranormal when I'm here because of just the place that we're at. Yeah, we did the ghost tour too, and that was kind of hokey, but there's the Bone Church there as well.
Yeah.
Um, the energy there was intense, definitely. And the castles too. I mean, I think it's Huska Castle. I didn't get to go to it myself, but that's supposed to be like one of the most haunted places in the world. I think they call it Hell's Gate.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be pretty demonic, for what they say. I think they even stopped doing tours there for a while because the activity got so crazy. Um, so that's like number one bucket list for me. um,
Right.
yeah, just the history alone. That place is amazing. Just walking down the streets, you can feel it.
Yeah, I hope I get that opportunity one day because do you feel when you travel, especially to somewhere so different than the States, like to Prague and other places you may travel, do you feel a very, big difference in the energy when you go to these places?
Oh yeah, I mean, like going to places like Prague and Germany and out of the country, for me, it's definitely a lot stronger than it is here. But it's a lot older too, so there's just so much that plays into that. We go to the Dominican Republic quite often as well, and I've had a lot of experiences there. And I talked to like the maids and stuff, and they telling me the history about like the hoodoo and stuff like that they do there, and the experiences that they've had. I think the energies are definitely stronger in places that I've been to outside of the country versus what I've experienced here.
Yeah, I would say it would be almost impossible to avoid some of the psychosomatic responses you would get from being in those locations for the first time, like kind of freaking out, like low key freaking out, like, oh my God, I'm here and it's awesome.
Right. I mean, that goes for any place that you go to for the first time, even if it's here. Usually you get the best activity and stuff on that first visit.
Right. We got some questions on YouTube and Facebook. Let's get back to those.
Is that big long question for me because my computer just crapped?
All right, let me go back and look. Big long question on Facebook. Do you remember
I
who
think
to?
it's I think it's on YouTube. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It was for any paranormal investigator. Um,
Okay, Clay Stevens.
Uh,
Question
yeah,
for
that.
anyone to answer. For paranormal investigators starting off, what type of places do you recommend starting out with? As in homes, hotels, etc. Tammy, can you answer that for him?
I think if you're green, um, I stay away from home. I
Experience.
think anyone like getting into the field fresh should stay away from like residential cases until you really know what you're dealing with. So I think like hotels and fun stuff like that is always a good place to start. I used to do meetups, so I would get a lot of new people, and we would do like cemeteries or the old hotels and stuff like that, just to kind of get a feel for what's happening and learning the process.
To add to that, what I did is kind of like did local history research around my immediate area, and you're always going to have urban legends, and you're always going to have some type of, you know, story about a haunting of the location. And what I would do the research, go talk to people, canvas people in the area that are willing to talk about it, learn as much as you can, and then go out there and see if you can experience it, and not just once, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and really dig in.
Definitely.
All right, who's next on these questions? I seen that David Milby had a question.
Yeah, he said, "Hey Tammy, are you good at picking up auras around people?"
No, no, I'm not. I'll be honest. I mean, I'm pretty good at like sensing character, or just if a person's not a good person or not. But auras, I'm no. Mm-mm.
And I think that's the only question I had.
Okay.
Sam had one on YouTube. Do you use what devices do you use to communicate with the spirits, or do you just feel what they are saying to you?
I I'm kind of old school. I don't like to use all the high techy stuff. That's just kind of my thing. I prefer EVPs, video cameras. Those are like my biggest things. I do use the Ouija board sometimes. But I mean I have like the K2s and stuff like that, but I don't rely on those sources to communicate.
Okay. Paul asks, when you all coming to Utah?
I'll see you soon, Paul. I'm trying.
Paul goes all those places over there near Virginia City and the surrounding areas. Matt Benton wants to drag me out there to Virginia City to do a film, but since he's moving back to Ohio, I don't know when that's going to happen. But I loved Mackey Mansion. I thought that was a really cool location.
It is a good location. Anything in Virginia City is amazing. I mean, you just need to walk around that town and you can feel it.
Absolutely. I can feel it from Ohio.
Sam also had a question. Do you travel far to help others?
The furthest I travel at the time would be like Nevada, Southern California, because I'm in Northern California. So I would say like 5, 6 hours would be it for me.
Right.
That's pretty good though.
Yeah, and I know so many people that if I can't take it, then I'll just pass it to somebody else.
That looks about it on YouTube for right now.
Well, darn it. That means that we would have to talk about other things. Well, that's okay. I want to know, have you ever considered charging people for the residential cases? Why or why not?
No, never, never. I think that is so wrong. I've always been the type of person to help other people, whether it's paranormal or not. And I can't charge a family that's like scared for their lives or for their children. That's just taking advantage. That I couldn't do that. And when I hear about people doing that, it's just a big for me. But, no.
Do you get asked how much you charge?
Yeah, almost every time. Like I have people like, I have lots of money, I can give you money. It's like, no, I just want to help you. I don't want you to live in fear. And especially like when it comes to children, like those cases take top priority. I just want people to live peacefully as we should.
Yeah, lately when I've been doing them, they've been asking me every time, how much is this going to cost me? How much do I owe you? And it's like, wow, nothing. How much? How would you even how would you come up with a figure? Like, no one really knows, you know, what they're actually dealing with. You just pretty much tell them what you believe and what you feel they're dealing with. Um, I mean, I don't even know how people who do charge come up with,
Like,
the gas money
yeah,
maybe, you know, they might say I'm worth $25 an hour to you or however much, but I kind of scratch my head when when people, come up with these figures because I think the last person that I talked to at an event we were at in Chillicothe, Ohio, they said that they wanted to charge them like $300 to investigate their.
I mean, I have legit given to go to dinner or see a movie. So I mean, I can't fathom. I
Right.
don't know.
So, do you guys? Okay, you said you investigate with other teams and people sometimes. Is there anybody that you like, that you live near, that you would like to kind of give a shout out to, as far as people or teams?
Um, I don't like anybody. No, I'm just kidding. Totally joking. I don't know. You're putting me on the spot.
I was just curious. You don't
Shout
you
out
don't
to
have to.
Abe's and everybody else. I mean, it's hard. There's so many people. I adore the majority of people in this field. So,
Well, thanks for not ignoring me.
shout out to you for having me on the show.
Well, like I said, Tammy, I just want to know everybody that's doing the same thing I'm doing essentially.
Right.
There's always something you're going to learn from other people who are doing it. And since you've been dealing with it a long time and been doing it for a long time, I feel like it's very foolish that I don't, try to talk to everybody. And, at least for this hour, if I don't ever get to talk to you again, that's sad. But at least I got to sit down with you for this hour and listen to a few of your, notable experiences and investigations and just try to sponge everything that I can in because there's always something like that story with the guy with your photos. Like, what in the hell's going on with that? Like, I know I've heard of that happening with someone before, but I can't place it. So it's like,
Mhm.
you look for those things and you try to scratch your head and figure out, well, what's going on with that stuff. All these unexplainable things. that add
Right.
up, that occur in our life, just fuels our passion for the paranormal, and it makes you want, even though sometimes, like in your case, it's disturbing and it might cause some bad side effects. It keeps you going. Is that how you feel?
Definitely. I mean, I've had so many people ask me, like, why do you stay in it from the things that you've experienced? I mean, I've given you just a little bit, that doesn't, there's so much more. But I'm passionate, and it's not even so much that it's the passion, it's a way of life for me. I can't just leave the paranormal because spirits are around me all the time. I'm haunted. So it's not like I even have a choice, really.
Do you feel
And
like they're drawn to your energy or your personality?
I think it's my energy. I've been told I have a bright light, that I'm a beacon. It's been that way since I was little. So I just feel like it's always going to be there. It was weird. I was in New York walking down Central Park, and this woman dressed in business attire, totally normal looking lady, stops in front of me, and she's like pointing her finger in my face and like yelling at me, and she goes, "He knows who you are and he knows what you're doing." And I'm like looking at her like, "Who the hell are you?" And she goes, "He doesn't like it and he's coming for you." And I'm like, "Okay." And then she literally just stepped aside and walked away like nothing happened.
That's when you get pepper sprayed.
Now, I have a question. Do you ever feel judged for what you do?
I don't know. I mean, I think people are pretty open with me about it. And I'm like afraid to tell new people in my life what I do because it's like
Sure.
I'm crazy. But most of the time when I do that, they're like, "Oh my God, that's so cool," and I always get kind of the opposite of what I'm expecting. I think it's
Right.
more now than maybe, 10, 12 years ago. So, no, I mean, I've had some like really, because I am religious myself, but I've had some really religious people like, "Oh, you're messing with the devil." And, I've had
Mhm.
those a few times, but I just kind of brush that off. Like, okay, you do you, I'll do me. I'll keep
Right.
going on with life. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen often.
That's because the state of paranormal, the pulp culture is that the paranormal is part of the pulp culture now in a lot of ways. Do you think that the pulp culture has done more good than bad for the paranormal, or has it just completely wrecked it?
Oh, I don't like what the paranormal has become, to be honest with you. Like, I think these past couple of years, I'm just like, why? Like, that's the reason why I'm like, why am I still doing this? Because I think the people in the field have gone batshit crazy. But I think it's hurt it a little bit. I think a lot of people are in the field for the wrong reasons. Um, but I'm no one to judge. Like, for me, it's like, do what you do for your reasons, that's fine, but don't bring the negativity of it into the field. um
Lots of
but yeah,
egos, right?
what's that?
There's a lot of egos out there.
Oh, the egos are huge, and it's like when someone's been on television or whatever, they think that they're better. And that's like, for me, like, I was on Ghost Adventures, but I'm like, that's not going to get to my head because there's been thousands of people that have been on Ghost Adventures like that. It was an experience, but I'm no better than somebody who hasn't been on television. Uh,
Hmm.
but those are the things that kind of put poison into the field. Um, but we can't stop what other people do. So.
Okay, on that note, I do have a question. He gets mad at me when I don't read his questions. Derek wants to know, have you met Matt Benton and does he look anything like Zach Band?
I have never met him, so I can't say that.
That wasn't a serious question though, because that was just a really cheesy way to make fun of Zach, or make fun of Zach and Matt. Actually, you just made fun of them both because you compared them.
That's what I said. He doesn't have a serious bone in his body most of the time.
Yeah, I didn't. You may have noticed, Tammy. I'm doing a film with Matt. He lives in Temecula, and he's been working on this film for the last 5 years, and we're just now starting editing it and getting it finished up. So he's actually coming on board with our team, and he's moving back to Ohio. So he's going to be a huge part of what we're doing here in the future. But we're wrapping up. I want to give you a chance to let everybody watching know how to follow your work, where you want them to go to see your work, and keep updated.
We have a Facebook page, Lost Souls Investigations. Same on Instagram, although I haven't been on there much lately. I need to start getting back on there. And we have a website. It's lostsoulsinv.org.
Awesome. I'm pretty sure I got all the links to everything you mentioned in the description of the videos. So please check them out. Tammy, you've been awesome. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate everyone that comes on the show. So thanks for, taking me up on it. And you've been very delightful and very nice to talk to and just very professional.
Thank you. You too. It's been fun. Thank you for having me.
All right. I'm going to wrap up this show, Tammy. If you would like, you can stay on the video call. If you want to jump off here, go ahead. But if you jump off here, it's been very nice talking to you, and you have a very, very good evening.
You guys too.
All right. There you have it, guys. Tammy Gyamathy, right? Gyamathy, not Gyamathy. Gyamathy. Sorry, Tammy. Tammy G. Okay, it's easier, right? It's easier to say. So check out those links on Facebook. Check out her paranormal group on Facebook and the website. Okay, guys. Lots of stuff I feel like Tammy is doing, and we need to learn from her. And check out what everybody's doing on the show, because that's what it's all about: is supporting each other and just getting to know each and everybody through their work and through real interaction, and not all this crazy I want to be famous stuff. So, with that being said, you can check out my work and my group's work at interfacedeath.net. Check out Deadlight LLC if you want the best infrared illuminators in the business. We're going to go over to the social media links. We're going to talk about patreon.com/support Interface Death in a moment. You can follow the Necromancer live show on Facebook. You can follow Interface Death on Twitter, on Instagram. The patrons, all right? If you have not seen me preach about the patrons, you can go to patreon.com. The link is in the description, and you can support these live shows, our paranormal research, everything that you see us publishing and putting out in the paranormal field online. You can do that financially, $1 a month, up to however much you can afford. And there's tiers and rewards for whatever you would like to do. So if you would want to see this continue, grow, and get better, check out patreon.com. Without these people you see on the screen, this stuff just wouldn't be possible. Christy Brown, Clay Borman, Matthew Jackson, Matt Benton, Bill Davis, Gwendolyn Guthrie, Paranormal Response Team, Landon Wells, Jessica Bias, RJ Murphy, Liz Coy, Danette Goldtrip, and Scotty Fox. Thank you very, very, very much for your continued support. That's where I want to leave it tonight. Thanks for joining me. We're going to have a brand new guest next week and a brand new Paranormal Soapbox show. Keep an eye out for that. And as always, I am Justin Brown. Thank you for joining me. Stick around for the video promotion. As always, I will see you next time.
What was that?
I don't know.
feel like I can't breathe in this room.
Generally, Justin, when you guys investigate, do you just take long pauses, wait to see if you hear things, observe everything that's going on?
It depends on the location and our experience with the location. So in this case, at Waverly Hills, since we've been here before, we've heard a lot of stories, done a lot of research, and investigated, we typically like to listen a lot because we hear the coughing, we heard it last time, so we can hear it again.